let's talk about copywriting. It's tragically overlooked, but it can really make or break a website. Bad copywriting will instantly destroy your professionalism and will make your entire site seem sloppy, even if everything else looks fantastic. Thankfully, copywriting shouldn't be too much of a hurdle for you. As a restaurant, your website will likely only include a relatively small amount of copy. But just because it won't be a huge part of your site doesn't mean that you don't need to put effort into it. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here, so I'm going to recommend a few different paths for developing your website writing. There's one simple little thing you can do to make the copywriting process so much easier. Just be honest with yourself. Are you a good writer? A mediocre one who can crank out some good work with lots of editing? Or is writing in general just not your thing? There's no shame in being upfront about your own shortcomings, and it's definitely the best way to end up with really good results. Even if you aren't a great writer, you are not doomed to awful website copy. Being honest with yourself about your abilities is the first step to developing a website strategy that will really work for you. Right now, I'm going to suggest 3 different routes based on your writing skill level. All of them will get you to the same result, great copywriting, but they just take slightly different routes to get there. So, you're confident in your writing abilities. Terrific. That makes things a little bit more simple for you. Obviously, if you're a strong writer, the obvious course of action is to do all of the writing yourself. I do, however, suggest that you be careful not to get too cocky in your abilities. No matter how great you are, make sure you have lots of family and friends read over your work and give you suggestions. You don't have to take everyone's advice, but definitely pay attention to trends. If there's feedback that you keep hearing over and over again, there's probably some weight to it. If you're not quite as confident in your writing skills, my advice is to take a collaborative approach. Your first step is to take a crack at copywriting on your own. It definitely doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be a basic draft. Edit it a few times, but then turn it over to a professional copy editor. Finding a professional to edit your draft isn't as difficult or as expensive as you might think. Websites like Odesk or Elance.com, which I'll link to below, are great places to find freelance editors, and since you're giving them a pretty decent draft to work with, you shouldn't be taking up too many billable hours. So let's say that writing just isn't your thing. Don't worry, you still have plenty of options. The road I suggest for those of you who aren't very confident in your writing abilities is just to hire a professional from start to finish. Sure, I could tell you to suck it up and send you links to a dozen writing resources, but is it really worth it? Personally, I don't think so. To me, it makes much more sense to spend a little money and hire someone who really knows what they're doing, rather than waste hours chipping away at a frustrating project that isn't even guaranteed a decent outcome. You can spend your time in better ways than that, and since most restaurant websites don't really need a ton of writing anyway, a freelance likely won't cost you too much. No matter what path you take, remember to keep doing these 3 important things: edit, get feedback, and spell check. Those 3 things alone will save you so much trouble. If you combine my advice above with a strong attention to detail and an open mind, you really can't go wrong.